Hello, and welcome to the Tenfold AI podcast. I'm Heather Snyder, joined by Matt Scanlon. This podcast is sponsored by Promode.ai. Promode is the first ever end-to-end B2B AI-powered marketing platform specifically designed for mid-market B2B companies like construction, manufacturing, professional services to easily, quickly, and amazingly generate and publish all of your marketing content, SEO, social. Yes, I'm going on, and Matt's laughing, and that's okay. We're excited. Promode is growing like gangbusters, and we have so much to talk about. We took a week off last week, but we're back. Hi, Matt.
Some would say it's a brilliant startup. Real Trump fans going there for a minute.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Nobody's ever seen. I love how, well, we don't really need to talk about Trump. I enjoy listening to him talk because I just think it's so amazing to rise to that level of power and never use a word with more than 2 or 3 tops syllables. It's like haiku. I don't know. I think it's
awesome.
Hypnotizing. Like, wow, he's talking about very big topic, but very small words. It's interesting. It's funny. So, you and I are new podcasters. We've been doing this, I don't know, a few months. And I know you've had a history of doing some podcasts, but in the grand scheme of things, we're pretty green at the podcast thing comparatively. And we're kind of learning that we essentially have a podcast before we start recording. Like, we hop on our platform here, we start talking, and about 20 minutes in, I'm like, we should have been recording this, but maybe that will be our Patreon content one day when we have Patreon, because we talk about some things that are maybe not necessarily endorsed by Promode.ai as a company, but this world of AI, like what we're doing, we're all seeing it touch every part of our lives. We're seeing it affect global politics and social issues with social media use, and I don't know, how people think, how people feel is being affected by AI and will continue to be affected by AI. There's a lot of important conversations to have around that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll dip into some of those in our recorded podcasts moving forward. But I don't know. It's fascinating to see where our conversations about AI go, and how you can quickly find out someone's ethos, their worldview based on, how they perceive AI.
Mm-hmm. I want to, we didn't plan on talking about this, but we had a call with a client yesterday. It was kind of like a fingerprint profile, which is like the database that we use to power our agentic AI. We're kind of like having an update on refining the fingerprint profile. And one thing we've talked about this on the show quite a bit. And, as I've been recording a lot of our onboarding help desk and stuff like that, it's been top of mind. But we're definitely noticing that there's this massive disconnect between what somebody, you get into a planning meeting with an agency or marketing department, and you kind of come, here's a strategy of how we talk about this business. It is rarely what the owner or president of that business wants to communicate. It is, it's 100% of the time, you have this public image online, which is how we initially build these models. It's the vast source of data to do that. And then you find out that when people actually see, this is the reality of how I've been represented, when that mirror is held up for them, oftentimes there's a disconnect, right? So I only say that we were having one of these meetings yesterday. One of the criticisms of AI is, or one of the things that I hear people talk about a lot is, will we lose empathy? Will AI cause us to lose the human touch, the empathy, the And I think that I have experiences like we had yesterday where, it took a little bit of time to get this guy kind of talking, but then as he started going, I mean, he like talked nonstop about his company in ways that no marketing department, no marketing expert would ever understand. That's it like, somebody would be going into that conversation trying to reverse engineer his words into some type of strat, and just instead of just letting a person talk, like actively listening and be like, I just want to know about the subject that you're talking about. I'm not listening to you trying to turn it into something that gives me like kudos that I get to flex on my coworkers. It is like, no, tell me everything there is to know about your business. I'm fascinated by it and I'm listening and I'm asking you follow-up questions about it. Like, and then that turns into like absolute gold. I mean, I've got it like in my other monitor right now. It's just like in the side of my periphery here. And I don't know, I was just thinking about like, that's really what this is opening up the door for, is that conversation right there. And I don't need to go like reverse engineer into some dorky ass fucking like social strategy. It's like, no, that's just like already done.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen, ask and answer follow-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, kind of a sales take that I've seen this week, which is very interesting. And I'll connect it to something you've talked about before. So you've mentioned how AI solutions, and really, I don't know if you even want to say AI, like high tech solutions maybe, have to be, what do you say, 10 times better, or maybe even more, 300%, whatever percent better than the current solution for people to use. Am I saying that right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Like
Like self-driving
unmanned
cars.
vehicles, self-driving cars
Exactly.
have to
Like
be, what do you say, something percent
it's like,
safer, or
yeah, it's got to be like ten times safer. Like for you to feel okay getting behind the wheel, it's not that your likelihood of getting in a crash doesn't have to be half as much. It has to be a tenth which is a ridiculous. It's really points out how silly we are, in my opinion.
well, and perhaps it's silly, but I can see the deeper psychological motivators for that. We like the idea of trusting a human to drive us somewhere because we are also human and can identify with their humanity. We can't identify with a robot's non-humanity, right?
Yeah.
And if something does go wrong, who do you blame? Who do you sue? Who do you choke? Who do you put in prison? You can't put a Tesla in jail. Like, obviously, you could sue engineers and manufacturers for things, but I think there is a primal need for holding someone responsible for something that we think is important, and putting our flesh suits in a vehicle and taking it from one place to another is important and comes with some risk. We want to mitigate that risk. But what I'm seeing in the sales space for ProMode and selling services, software, agentic AI solution is that 10x safer phenomenon in self-driving cars translates into 10 times more value that they have to see and feel. And we've done a lot to remove risk for companies wanting to try ProMode, right? We do a 30-day money back guarantee. We launch them very, very quickly so that inside of that 30 days, they can definitely know for sure if ProMode is going to be good for them. And we bear the risk of onboarding, that potential sunk cost should they leave within that 30 days. We bear that risk because we understand that the buyer needs to just feel super comfortable and feel like they're not taking a risk. And so we're doing things that no marketing agency in their right mind would ever do, like giving a 30-day money back guarantee. An agency would never do that. Mm-hmm. But like yesterday, I had a prospect email me, and she said, okay, this is all great, but can we contact 2 or 3 of your current clients for a reference? And I feel like she asked for something else as well. Oh, she wanted a full explanation of how we do SEO.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm just kind of thinking, I'm like, this is really interesting because at this point, they've given us no money at all. They have spent nothing, and we have given them a custom demo. So we've shown them, I think in their case, it was 15 or so pieces of content generated by Promode for their company, including blogs and email newsletters and social posts for all social platforms. So that's what they've seen already, and they liked it. They said it looked good,
Mm-hmm.
but can we talk to 2 or 3 of your current clients, and can you please explain how you do SEO? Because we don't want to lose ground on SEO. We're having an agency do our SEO now. And I'm like, this is really interesting because there's just no way they would have experienced that much proof of value before paying $1
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't Promode and an AI solution,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's like that bar for value, for impressing the prospect is so much higher in this world of service as software. And I think that self-driving car analogy works really well, right? That a business owner would sooner trust a digital marketing agency that is experiencing 30% turnover year over year in their employees,
Mm-hmm.
that most of the work is done by brand new marketers, fresh out of college, or sometimes even still in college, that they're paying $180 an hour
Yeah.
to people that they would, okay, let's take like a
Hold on.
real world
I do want to
example.
frame this. Let me
Yes.
frame the graphic that I just put up. One of the
Yeah.
things was we don't want to lose the SEO that we've gained over the last year. And I was like, oh, great. This is data that can be known. Let me see what SEO they've gained in the last year. Pull this up. I blacked out their name, Heather, don't worry.
Thank you.
But like there has been no SEO gain over the last year. And then like a deeper dive in here is that their images, like the thing that they've started to rank for. So you'll see like there is this kind of like medium blue box in here is where you'll see an uptick. Kind of, you got June 24, you see this uptick. That's showing up in Google image searches, right? So this is you're highlighting, what you're highlighting is somebody is saying, we have been shown vanity metrics and we're afraid of not being shown vanity metrics anymore.
Well, they don't know that they've been shown vanity metrics.
Right. Yeah.
They're trusting a human who owns an SEO agency,
Mm-hmm.
who knows all the right words to say. And I know because I used to be that person to say all those right words and convince these people that they are doing something good for them when that graph clearly shows it, they're not. And we had a conversation during the demo about organic traffic. Are you converting? Because my question to her when she's telling me we don't want to lose SEO value, and I'm like, totally get it, but bigger picture, we don't want to lose value in general, right? Yeah, that's true, right? Because we want your company to grow. So first, can you answer the question, are you converting new business? Are you generating revenue from organic site traffic? Well, we don't think so. Like, yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. Almost all of your site traffic is from direct keyword searches, meaning they already knew the name of your company. They would have landed on your website anyway. They happened to type your name into Google instead of the URL bar. That's it. And you ranked for that. Congratulations, right? Like that's not a feather in the cap of your SEO agency that you're getting direct site traffic. But, I never shame the prospect. I don't blame the prospect at all. I just think what we're seeing is this phenomenon of, is a robot better than humans? And I think one of our challenges in this services software space that we're in, this new category, is that we're humans, and communicating the value of us in the picture. Like, we're here. We've built this. We're quality controlling everything. Like, we're not vanishing when you sign on with Pro Mode, right? Communicating that value in a real way, and then also communicating their own value. Like you're the human in the loop of the machine learning that will happen in Pro Mode. Because agencies and the marketing world at large for so long have told business owners they wouldn't possibly know how to talk about their own company.
Right.
You know, like our client yesterday, right? He was feeling, I could tell there was a moment he was feeling a little frustrated because he wasn't seeing what he really wanted to see in Pro Mode in his portal with the first batch of content we pushed in there. He's like, I'm just not seeing it. And he didn't know how to communicate to us in marketing speak how to make his content look and feel. And so he was feeling frustrated. And you're like, wait, no, we don't need you to do that. We don't need you to tell us what to say. Tell us what you are experiencing in your company.
Yes.
Who are the people you're selling to? What's the disposition of your prospect? And you had to ask that question a few different ways before it really like launched him into talking. But as soon as he did, now he's talking like a business owner. Now he's talking as if you and I are a strategy meeting in his company, not related to marketing.
Mm-hmm.
The marketing piece will be done after the words are said.
Yes.
Just tell us your day-to-day, who you're selling, what was your last deal, just in your own words.
Mm-hmm.
Say those things. We capture those words in the moment. They're added to your database, and the Pro Mode strategy agents get to work making it real.
Well, as a point of reference, like just to talk about how simply we are talking here, we'd come up with this initial database for him, and inside of it, so this is like a scrape of the internet for this company. There was equal weighting of content publicly available for 12 services. This is a service-based B2B company. There was equal weighting for 12 services. This company provides 12 services, right? We get down to brass tacks and he's like, guys, like 90% of my revenue comes from this one service. Okay. Why does he have 12 services equally weighted across all of these things when the other 11 really don't mean jack shit to his bottom line? Because somebody was trying to cook some SEO to show him site traffic that comes to his site. I mean, perfect example. I would imagine this prospect that we were just talking about that I showed that graph to, same exact scenario. I bet you that there are like one or two products that pay for everybody's salary in that company, but yet somebody came in there and put their bullshit marketing on top of it. And now all of a sudden they have this like super broad public profile where 90% of it does not support the actual business activities of this business. This is what AI does, is it says like, okay, like search results. I mean, they're dead. I mean, it is like, we're seeing the suggestions provided by Gemini are so good. It's just a nonsense way to approach marketing just to get site traffic onto your website for something that, accounts for 2% of your product offering. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. I've seen that dozens and dozens of times. Like, great example is you'll have a commercial painting company, but you look at their website and half of it is about residential painting. And they'll say, we're sick of all these, Bob, the guy down the street wanting me to paint his garage. Like, that's not what we do. And I'm like, it's on your website. It's on your website a lot.
Uh-huh.
And the reason it is because your SEO agency, whoever built this website and who you're paying SEO to every month, they know that they will be able to impress you with vanity metrics if they add those more frequently searched categories like residential.
Mm-hmm.
There is, hundreds of times more search results for residential services than for commercial services. And we understand your business is commercial. That's where the money is. That's where the margin is. That's what your company is built to fulfill. But you've got all this residential stuff on your website. Why?
hmm hmm
Asinine.
Well, okay, so maybe this is a really good segue. Um, so I'm going to provide some background context. Heather, you're familiar with this. The last AI product that I was working on was a website builder. And so the general concept was that you could use retrieval augmented generation inside of a marketing agency to house a library of the most commonly used elements in websites. And so I had been working on this product direct to consumer. So as a part of that, I would just do research on what are the elements. Like a website is broken into rows and columns at its most fundamental basic level. And so if you have rows and columns, let's say you've got 3 rows across, 4 rows across, or I'm sorry, 4 columns across, rows of that, you can actually just assign a name to every element inside of that and then begin to turn it into an algorithm. You could begin to map this thing mathematically. And then you have these design elements that a web designer or an agency, an account manager could then say, okay, I want to call this element in here. It codes that row. And this is the idea that I was shopping around. I would talk with agencies. Universally, I would hear from them. They would say, well, can I see some examples of your work? And I would say, well, yeah, I can show you examples of websites that have been built with this. But like what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ingest every website that you've ever built into this model, because I'm willing to bet my entire life savings that if I were to look at every website that you've ever built, that I could turn it into an algorithm. I could absolutely turn it into a mathematical. No. We are super custom. Everything that we do is tailored to the client. And I was like, am I a crazy person? Because I'm looking at all of these and I'm thinking this. This is, I started to keep numbers on. I was like, okay, every time I hear this from an agency, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go into their portfolio and I'm going to create a mapping of the most common elements. This is not just amongst one agency. This is across all agencies. We have the most creative websites. So like the hero, we all know the hero image right here. So everybody that said we have these super creative customers, 92% of all agencies, all websites amongst those agencies, this is in between the year like 2021 and 2023. Full height hero image with a transparent header. 92% of all websites coming out of all agencies. This was a big one that started to really grind my fucking gears. Is there was a parallax effect between the third and fifth fold of every single website when somebody said, we're hyper creative, we are hyper custom, there's no way that we could use this. And then 88% of those websites had CSS grids somewhere in the bottom half of the website. So dynamic CSS grids. These are just like the 3 most prominent examples. I never, ever encountered a website that could not be turned into a math problem. Out of all of these
Sure.
so-called creative custom solutions, I mean, this stuff is all able to be turned. It is like if you truly were executing a strategy for a company, you would have one client. You cannot have more than one client without creating some level of systematic approach to it. That is the only way that you can have a fully unique solution. So what is the cost of a fully unique strategy that cannot be turned into a math equation? It is an internal marketing team that costs you $500,000 in payroll every year, and they better be the best. It's the
Yeah.
only way. Beyond that is there is going to be a level of algorithmic approach to the process. So anytime that there is a process that occurs more than once, especially like today, in marketing today, if there's ever a process that exists more than once anywhere, it can be turned into an algorithm, because it is being turned into an algorithm by humans. They just don't have an awareness of how they're doing it. They don't have the self-awareness to know either this is the thought process that is going through my head. This is how my boss trained me. This is how I learned to do this in school. These are the templates that we use for our websites. These are all things that can be turned into an equation. And then the only creativity in that is what the business owner says. That is the only injection of anything interesting. And when the business owner is talking in those meetings, it is just shrouded in bullshit marketing speak.
Mm-hmm.
It is 100% doing these things algorithmically with AI maximizes the creativity of the output beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, there's like no doubt in my mind that this is the truth in this. The nuts and bolts of assembling it is a math.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so interesting just thinking of like consumer behavior, consumer psychology in these solutions. And I've chewed on it for years, like selling digital marketing to business owners for an agency, noticing patterns of business owners and people who engage a marketing agency. They want to perceive value. They want to feel special. They want a competitive advantage, meaning they want an edge that their competitors don't have, right? And they believe they already have that in their products or services, right? Just like we do.
Yeah.
They want that edge to be carried into their marketing,
Mm-hmm.
right? In how they talk about themselves, in how their SEO is accomplished, and what their website looks like. Like they want that competitive edge that we're different and here's why we're better and here's why, to be, communicated in all of their marketing. So, I mean, that's the heart behind it. The question is, you know, how do we serve that need and communicate that in selling these AI solutions?
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's another layer to it. I mean, okay, like my brother-in-law has an e-commerce, like it's a B2B e-commerce company. This dude flies all over the world, first class, with his family of 5 on credit card points alone that he spends on pay-per-click and organic SEO. Yeah, I mean, we're talking millions of dollars a year spent on this stuff. So it's like there is an element of reality that people need to face with this type of shit, where it is like, okay, this is like companies whose bottom line relies on SEO. This is how much it costs them. How much are you paying? Right? Your fucking $5,000 a month for your SEO is not doing shit, but making you feel like something is happening. I mean, that is just the reality. Like these companies don't have the tolerance, and nor do they need to be paying that much for that. Is not their bottom line. The same amount of money that he pays. I mean, it is a company of 2. They do a shitload of revenue. It is 2 people that work there. And that is only because our clients in B2B, the same amount of money that he is spending on organic SEO and pay-per-click, they are spending on headcount. Like that to me is the story, is like, yo, this is crazy. You need to be paying way less for this stuff. Probably need most of it. You need a presence online. Pay the minimum amount necessary to have a presence online that you feel good about. And really, that should be just coming directly from your mouth. But beyond that, all of this stuff, everything aside from that is just for show.
Yeah. Fascinating. So let's talk a little bit about something that's making waves this week. DeepSeek.
Mm.
I have some musings and I know you have some facts. Put them together and we got a podcast. So can I tell you what I know about DeepSeek, and then you kind of riff into probably more facts? When I heard about DeepSeek essentially shorting NVIDIA's stock to the tune of 15%, billions of dollars. And I heard some of the reasons, like the GPU use was so much lower. So it's a more efficient way of training AI models and building LLMs, it reminded me very much of, I think, our first podcast where we talked about the CEO of a Chinese AI company who was very kind of humbly talking about how they are able to do more with far less resources.
Mm-hmm.
So they're building LLMs, training models for $5 million, not $5 billion. And they're doing that because the energy resources are not as abundantly available. They can't just flip on a switch and tell the government to fund, data warehouses to build servers and all of these things. And so they've had to be more creative in how the economics of energy are working out. And I was like, this is very interesting. And we talked about it on that first podcast. And it looks like, a Chinese company has dazzled the AI worlds or the investor world, certainly. What do we think about that? Where do you rank this in terms of like concern or priority or big deal, not a big deal? What do you think?
Well, first off, a thing that there's a lot of things I'm not aware of, not participating in social media, but there are a lot of things that I understand really well as a result of it. So I got some receipts that I'm going to go ahead and I hope you can hear the audio. So I made a claim. This would have been in.
You're gonna roll the tapes.
This would have been in November.
Oh my God, am I wearing the same shirt?
Wait, do we get a repeat? Oh, yes.
Quarter zip repeat.
Oh, Heather.
Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I'm
Heather,
retiring after this.
I mean, it shouldn't be embarrassing because this is like, my God, I didn't even notice.
This is a who wore it better.
Oh my gosh,
Me in
I'm
the past or me in the
sweating.
present?
Oh, that is too funny. No, this is like 130 days of no repeats. I think that
I do have an extensive quarter zip collection because I'm working from home and they're so comfy.
I'll definitely have a repeat before you do.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so the argument that I'm making here is that the cost of training, so the cost of these models is tied to the headcount that it replaces. Okay. So this is the argument that I'm making, that when we're coming up with a budget, because for a while there, I was very confused. Like, why is nobody coming up with a major breakthrough in how we're training these models? It's very confusing to me. And then I heard some people talking about, well, what is the value of headcount if you became the LLM that was like the one that everybody used? How do you measure that market value of that LLM being the one that is used? And so I heard this concept of like, well, you should probably think about the headcount that it has the potential to replace. What is the value of that? So I did some research, and that's about $9 trillion. So in the US, $9 trillion annual headcount replacement as a result of being the one that wins the LLM arms race. Okay. So I'm just going to like go through this real quick.
I cannot hear it, Matt.
You can't. All right. So what I'm talking about is I'm talking about xAI's Colossus, largest GPU cluster ever. I talked about this there's a $9 trillion value that we're probably looking at here with this thing. So that's going to be like the maximum amount of investment put into compute before we see a massive change in the way that the models are trained. So then I was like very confused I was like, well, why $6 million? I was very suspicious about this $6 million DeepSeek number. So then I started to do some more digging. I was like, this does not sound right because it is not commensurate with this headcount replacement theory. So I found some information on what is the cost for these GPU clusters. How much does it cost to power them? How much does it cost would you rent them? Would you purchase the GPU clusters? What type of GPU chips did DeepSeek use in order to do this? Because I was very suspicious when they said it only costs us, they were very specific to talk about it costs $6 million to train. That to me was like, okay, yeah, the training of the model is not the most expensive part of this process. You need to assemble the clusters, you need networking, you need to power it. And so I looked this up. And so DeepSeek was using these H800 chips. So as far as a cost per GPU, they're significantly more expensive, but they used a lower cluster count. Okay. So GPT-4, so this is a year and a half ago. So OpenAI was using A100 chips. So lower costs, but as far as compute power, significantly more expensive per compute. Okay. So there are these other costs that are unrelated to training, but you still need to assemble the clusters, right? That's where the majority of the cost is. So you've got networking costs, you've got co-location, the cost of capital to assemble it, the cost of the electricity. So all in all, this estimate here is, roughly speaking, GPT-4 against probably actual costs of assembling the GPU clusters, powering the GPU clusters, networking, all of those things that are involved. I think the actual cost of DeepSeek is probably in the neighborhood of $100 million, right? Which is still a significant, it's not, I mean, I think if anybody believes that it was $6 million, you're a damn fool. Like maybe it costs $6 million, maybe to like run the clusters during training cost $6 million. But I mean, like the cost of the clusters alone, right? So it's 22 grand per cluster. They have 2,000 clusters of these units. I mean, I don't, maybe NVIDIA gave it to them, right? But I mean, like let's say that they donated it to Deeps and there's still an in-kind donation. To say this was a $6 million training is absolute bullshit.
Well, I'm sure all of their accounting numbers are completely honest and true, and that they would have no reason to in any way, defraud their accounting or cook their books for any particular reason.
So
right.
here's where I'm going to put on my simultaneous like Nostradamus and psycho conspiracy theory hat.
Oh, yeah.
So total cost is about a fifth of GPT-4, which to me feels a lot more accurate. It's like the total cost is a fifth. Still very impressive. What would you guess the cost of a knowledge worker headcount is in China compared to the United States? Almost exactly 1/5 across all roles. So this is like an entry-level software engineer. It is this would be somebody building a website at an agency. This would be an SEO specialist. This would be an academic researcher across all of these different roles of knowledge work, which is the primary headcount that AI replaces. Across the board, headcount costs are about a fifth in China what they are in the United States. So I would still posit that my theory of like the max capacity of training costs for these AI models will always be directly proportionate to headcount replacement. I think that that's what these companies are looking towards. What is our market? Our market cap is going to be based on cost to replace. And so, yeah,
I
takeaway.
see. Yeah, I see where you're going with that. That's interesting. Interesting logic. So what do you think, just kind of more broadly, what do you think about the US versus other countries? I'm not going to, China, whatever, this claim that seems to be coming out that the US is dead. I literally saw a TikTok the other day talking about how, China's winning. They've already won the AI race. It's over. The US is irrelevant. We're in the dark ages on AI. We've lost. What do you think about that?
I would think that if I were a powerful hedge fund and I was looking for the most lucrative short in the stock market today, I would be looking at Nvidia, and I would find a way to cook the news of DeepSeek to try to get a momentary drop in Nvidia stock, because I'm sure the options contracts on shorting Nvidia today were fucking awesome. And I would say that what we just experienced was the manipulation of the stock market, probably by short sellers that held short options on Nvidia stock. Like, that's probably what we just witnessed. There's just not a, I mean, the $500 billion infrastructure bill. I mean, there's like not a snowball's chance in hell that a US company does not win this. I mean, even if there was a 20% efficiency in the training strategy with this, I mean, just the amount of brute force that these American companies and investors are willing to put into this thing, there's just not a chance in hell that is the case. I think it is. I honestly think it's, like I said, I mean, really what I do think we just witnessed was probably some sort of stock market manipulation. And so the thing went viral. Everybody had a hot take on it. I mean, probably a significant amount of it was like algorithmic manipulation. I mean, I think people should watch Billions. I mean, goddamn, if fucking TikTok had been around when Billions came out, we would actually see how that would be a clear storyline in that show. I mean,
I love Billions.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. So
it's great.
That's how most power is wielded. I mean, I think what you're looking at is, I mean, the DeepSeek it's a thing that when the TikTok buzz wears out, like, everybody will have forgotten about it in 6 months. Nvidia's stock will bump again. I mean, listen, like, in this spending bill, so I was like researching the spending bill for AI infrastructure. I mean, a lot of these plans for these data centers are going to be on their own grid. I mean, this is like, they're not even tapping into public utilities anymore. I mean, this is going to be a bonkers era that will move at a pace that I don't think anybody can even fathom. I mean, I think it's a big nothing burger. Personally, I think the $6 million to train is just silly, to be honest. I mean, like, just the GPU costs alone would be, let me just do that math real quick. Yeah, $45 million. I mean, that is the cost of the GPU. So okay, so did they rent the most advanced chips from NVIDIA? Did NVIDIA give them to them? I mean, like, it's like, you need to assemble these things. Yeah, maybe running those GPUs to train the model costs $6 million, but like, the amount of money needed to do this is just astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a day trader or an investor. I kind of wanted to be for a while, but you have to have, I don't know, you have to do a lot of really weird things to be a good day trader. I found you have to have interesting sleeping habits, and I don't know, it wasn't for me. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, but it kind of just reminds me a little bit of the crypto NFT meme stock era that we're in right now, which is really where you have people with a lot of money investing in things that they largely don't understand.
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, you get really erratic outcomes, like very high peaks, very low valleys, because it's really fueled by feeling, by public opinion and hearsay and TikTok videos, things outside the realm of fact and reality and science and data. People don't understand the complexities of AI, and none of us understand where exactly it's going.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody wants to bet on the right pony, having no clue what the race even really is.
Well, and to like further highlight this point, I mean, the fact that it was NVIDIA stock that was tanked in this thing, it is like, it is still NVIDIA's technology that are training all of these things. It is still an NVIDIA chip. I mean, NVIDIA is still the provider of these chips. And the chips that DeepSeek used to train their model has a significantly higher profit margin than the GPU that OpenAI used. So if you're a logical investor, like the stock market is not a logical place. If you're a logical investor, you would say, wow, we just learned that another country learned how to train a model using a chip that NVIDIA has higher profit margins on than the current chip used. You know what I mean? So that would be like, okay, if Ford came out with an F-150 and Ford's profit margins on that next gen F-150 were twice as much as the previous generation of F-150s, and Ford stock went down. In what world would that happen?
So why do you think OpenAI stock didn't crash instead of NVIDIA?
Well, OpenAI is not publicly traded, so they would not have stock to go down. I mean, I think that I would guess that the logic that these people would be using, and I'm not even saying that this is like nefarious. I would venture to say that most day traders don't understand how GPU clusters are assembled.
Sure.
I'm guessing the logic that was used for NVIDIA stock going down would be not as many chips will be needed moving forward, right? So that it will NVIDIA will be selling less volume of GPU clusters as a result of this thing happening, which really the only thing that should cause NVIDIA stock to go down right now is that if somebody were to develop a competing chip that to NVIDIA, I mean, that would be it. Like if somebody had a chip that competed with the H800 and that company got funded, produce a prototype and put that into practice, that in my opinion should be the only thing that would cause NVIDIA's stock to go down. NVIDIA is still the only provider of GPU clusters that can be used with any reasonable scale to train these models. So to me, this should have really bumped NVIDIA stock, if you ask me, which that's why I've kind of come to the conclusion that it was more over market manipulation than anything.
That makes sense because I mean, I'm not in the world of building GPU clusters by any means, but it kind of seems like if it is, 20% the cost to build DeepSeek, and NVIDIA is still providing those components, wouldn't that, to your point, increase NVIDIA stock because it makes building these more accessible to other companies?
Yes.
Other entities that would want to build LLMs.
Yeah, it should tell you, this company, NVIDIA, has vertical market penetration for these small, lightweight models all the way up to these big, clunky behemoth, like 401 models. It like, yeah, you're spot
Hmm.
on.
Interesting. Yeah, this it it's fascinating seeing what's happening. One thing I was gonna just mention that is it could just be me, but when we first started this podcast and when we initially launched Pro Mode, I was seeing and hearing a lot of AI consultants, in my LinkedIn and my network. We're in Kansas City, kind of in this area. I was seeing a lot of these AI consultants popping up, promoting their solutions. And I was a bit concerned. And we even positioned our marketing to sort of answer to that. Like, hey, ProMode is not an AI consultant building in make.com, stringing together retail AI solutions. We're not that. But I have not seen one in a few months, actually. Like, I haven't heard anything from prospects, from what I'm seeing in social media. I'm not hearing anything. And I'm wondering what's going on there. Do you have any
Oh,
thoughts?
I've not really thought of that. I mean, in general, I think like consulting in general is kind of a weird thing just to begin with. Wow. I don't know. I think that is because, well, first off, there's a lot more software solutions out there today. And so I think, if we saw the wave of how things happened, you probably saw people that knew how to spin up a consulting business. They kind of knew about a thing, spun up a consulting business about that thing. Then, and then, kind of the thing that you and I saw when we first started Promote, or even we're having the beginning ideas of it, is we're seeing these like traditional software companies attach a wrapper into their like CRUD database. And then, okay, so now AI can fill this field with text, or AI can replace this image right here. But even so, so I'd imagine that phenomenon probably had an impact on the AI consultancy. And then actually, what, now that I'm speaking aloud, I would imagine that these consultants probably got asked to do things that were like way over their head.
Sure.
I was really think like they were probably tasked with probably creating some sort of sophisticated financial analysis, or something like, I mean, something that would be useful to a business, but like very easily gets you in way over your head if the extent of what you learned how to do is to whip up a good email sequence in Chat GPT. Then
Yeah.
the minute it gets in the zeitgeist, some of the possibilities out there, now all of a sudden you're really needing, I mean, there's a significant amount of data science that goes into to building these things, even the transcripts, like we were talking about earlier. Like, this is not a matter of just like copy paste a transcript in. Like, there's a significant amount of pre-processing of data where you have to have a basic understanding of how data is structured, how statistical analysis works. It's not, I mean, if anybody makes this sound easy and seamless, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's I can't imagine it being a viable business model to be an AI consultant where you're just stringing together those retail AI tools. And I'm talking about the mid-market. I'm not talking about the Deloittes and the McKinseys, and when they take on an AI project for an enterprise level company and, subcontract out to top AI engineers around the world, that's a different thing, obviously. But your mid-market B2B company that is approached by an AI consultant, like, what is the revenue potential for that AI consultant? Like, there's going to be an initial setup and discovery, and like, there's going to be some consulting on the front end of that engagement. Find out what can be automated, where can AI be plugged into your, let's say, sales and marketing processes.
Mhm.
Those things are then set up. I'm assuming the business owner is paying license fees to all the tools in the stack, ChatGPT, Midjourney, like whatever they have going on in that flow of events. But then, what's the ongoing revenue potential for that AI consultant? Like they don't own anything.
Right.
They don't own the solution that they've sold. They're selling their time as a consultant. What time is necessary long term? Is it to step in and fix it if it breaks? Is it to, reconnect an API that's changed? Things like that. In which case they do need to have some technical ability, but they're not going to be able to take a, multi-$1,000 a month retainer for that thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't
Well,
know
and
what they're doing.
I mean, if I were to imagine what these engagements look like, it's like, hey, I'm an AI consultant, pay me 25 grand, 50 grand to come in, and I'm going to suggest tools to you that I learned about on TikTok. And then I'm going to leave. And here, now you've got 7 new logins and 7 new tools that you need to learn how to use, where you're still just doing all the same shit you were doing before. But it's like, okay, 20% more efficient. But like, you still have all this bullshit that you need to manage on top of it. Like, I'm positive that nobody was going into these companies and saying, yeah, we should restructure how you manage data in this company. Like, this could be a revolutionary thing for your company. Like, you no longer need spreadsheets. Like, imagine, I mean, that to me would be a valuable AI consultant if they came into a company and say, hey, no more spreadsheets. Nobody is using Excel in here ever again. If you ever want to know something about this company, here is a chat bot that is installed on all your employees. You want to know any piece of data, you ask this thing a question. If you are in the accounting department, you export your QuickBooks file, upload it here, and then these are all the people that have permissions to talk to it. If you are in the marketing department, upload all of your analytics, all of these things in here. Everybody on your marketing team, ask questions in this chatbot. That would be a valuable AI consultant engagement, but it would require actually understanding data, statistical analysis. I mean, this is the true promise of AI, is that this is what data management inside of companies looks like in the future, where you don't need to structure your data. You fucking just zing information. Every department is throwing information into this thing, and then everybody has permissions to talk to that brain of the company. That, like, this is the future of how businesses handle data. And an AI consultant knows what they're doing would go into that company, and as that company feels comfortable, department by department would begin to be set up with that brain. Eventually, once everybody feels safe and comfortable with it, there's a singular brain that everybody can talk to and add information into. Like, that would be a meaningful engagement,
Yeah.
Having 13 stupid ass image generation and email, like, that's not a meaningful engagement.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Well, this has been a fun episode. I think we've rung it out for today, but appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us. If you're tuning in, I'm Heather Snyder. This is Matt Scanlon. Again, this podcast has been sponsored by ProMode.ai, the AI marketing engine for mid-market B2B companies. Thanks, Matt.